Hi, and welcome to Millionaire Mondays. Well, today I'm going to be unpacking an interview that was conducted with the RE/MAX #1 agent worldwide, Jordan Cohen. We're going to be talking listing presentations, and I'm going to share with you some of the tips and techniques that he shared with the people that were on that call. Now, if you want to know who Jordan Cohen is, you can go and look him up on Google. But it's fair to say he knows what he's talking about, averaging over 200 million US dollars in property sales annually. So what does it mean to have a great listing presentation? And you do need to have one. You can't just wing it. Well, in his words, it's not about sending something to someone. It's not just about the PowerPoint or the booklet that you put together. It's what you say and what you do that makes the presentation come alive. He develops fantastic presentations for all of his clients. But the key is he presents the same presentation style across all the different price ranges. One of the other things that Jordan mentioned was that when it comes to presentations, he wants to go first. You know, sometimes a technique with agents is to let everybody else go and then to come sweeping in at the end. Well, he turns that on his head. He wants to go first because he's confident in his presentation. He wants to make sure that by the time he's done with a client, they don't want to see anybody else because there's no ways that anybody could wow them as much as he has. Now, you don't need to necessarily do the same, but to give you an idea, and look, Jordan does work with high-end clients, but he will give them a suede covered booklet that makes up the listing presentation with all the details and pictures and images inside. And it could cost him anywhere up to 40 US per booklet. Convert that, well, that's called an investment. But here's the thing, Jordan walks away with 9 out of 10 listing presentations that he does. And I'm sure that's a conversion ratio that you would want. So like I said, he wants to go first because he's that confident in his presentation. But he also knows his competition. He knows what they're going to say. So you need to make sure that you know what your competition in your market is pitching to customers when they're doing a listing presentation. The reason he needs to know that is so that he knows how to counter it with his exceptional and uniquely different value proposition to the customer. Now, he'll tell you that he's not a huge techie. He's not big on tech. He does have an assistant. By the way, Jordan works alone. He doesn't have a team. He doesn't operate in a big office. He works alone just with one assistant that deals with a lot of the administrative functions. But what Jordan does is he gets the client to focus on him and not necessarily the company. I mean, yes, the brand that he works for, RE/MAX, definitely gives him leverage. But he wants that client's attention focused on the things that he brings to the table. And that's what he articulates in all of his presentations. In his words, it's important to float your boat, but not to boast. In other words, no bullshit. Share your experiences, share your track records, your average days on market, your average price achieved, etc. That's important. Use referrals where necessary, but make sure you stay true and you stay honest when delivering that message in a presentation. He believes it's important that you let the client know the money you're going to invest. Not necessarily the exact amount, but the fact that you're going to be taking a substantial portion of your earnings and putting it into the marketing of this home. Note, it's not what it's going to cost you, it's what you're going to invest. In other words, you're going to be partnering with this seller in getting that home moved and getting buyers through it and getting someone to sign. A classic line that he uses, and it's so true and so key, is, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I want to let you know I only get paid when I sell, not when I list. So I'm only going to celebrate when I sell, and that's why I want to get to work straight away on getting my investment in your home back. So when meeting with a client at the home for the first time, what he wants to do is a quick tour of the home, a quick once over, walking through, not focusing on too much of the details, but he wants to come in strong, be confident. You need to get the seller to have confidence in you and your ability to get this property moved and to get it sold. He wants the seller to believe that he is the best person and to have the ability to bring a buyer to sign. That's what he's trying to get across in that initial meeting at a pre-launch. Now, sometimes sellers want to sign there and then, mainly because Jordan has got this confidence and ability and he's developed it over 13 years and he knows what he's doing and he's got a great value proposition. But he never takes the mandate straight away. He always wants to do the listing presentation. Why? Because he wants to showcase exactly what he can do for the seller. And in so doing, he can start controlling the conversation, because ultimately getting that property sold is going to depend on, yes, the marketing, but also the price, which allows him to control the conversation to get the seller to set the price with him at a reasonable fair market value to get the property moved. And that's important for both parties concerned, seller and agent. He'll often talk to the seller about photographs and that he only uses the best people. And I think that's critical because in his opinion, photographs can sell a property. So for example, having it done by a professional photographer, only having the pictures taken at dusk, he believes are critical, and he uses that in conversation with the seller to get them to affirm what he's saying. The more times you see people nodding, the more you know they're coming around to your way of thinking. Mr. Seller, do you agree that if I get the best person to showcase your home, to take the pictures at dusk with great lighting, that it'll showcase your home in the best possible manner? Yes, I believe so. Well, Mr. Seller, just so you know, I do use the best photographers out there, and that's exactly what I'm going to do for you. But more so, and here comes the key, more so, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I'm going to do is I'm going to personally select the photos that make the cut. Now, why is that important? Because often pictures are taken of homes, 10, 20, 30, 40, some 50 photos of a home. And the agent will take that and chuck them all onto the website. Some of them are not great, but the photos are taken, so they figure, let's put them all on there. Well, maybe that doesn't actually showcase the best features of the home or put it in the best light. What Jordan says is he's going to take personal care and attention, differentiate himself from everybody else, and select only those that make the grade out of all those professional photographs. Now, do you think that's going to impress the seller? That's actually going to make his property stand out over and above the also-rans? Well, it's worked for him. The idea is to make it sound better than the competition, right? I mean, that's why you're doing this. That's why you're doing a listing presentation and trying to put your best foot forward all the time. I mean, this is a pre-launch. At the pre-launch, you want excitement, passion, urgency. It's got to come through in your personality. I mean, that's half the trick. The skill and the experience, sure, but do I buy into you first and then what you have to offer? So it's important that you get that across, and you need to differentiate yourself. Stating the obvious things like, oh, what we're going to do is we're going to put it on the internet. Everybody's doing that. I mean, that's assumed. You got to figure out what is it that nobody else is doing in your market, and then do that and offer that. So that's something you're going to have to figure out in each of your different markets. Maybe you want to explain to sellers how social media can be a great add-on. And get clients to confirm why that's the case. Talk them through it. Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and all these other platforms that you're on, hopefully, and are connected to hundreds, if not thousands of people. Let them know your success on social media. Most agents won't mention those factors. They'll stick to the old traditional methods of marketing themselves. Social media can be a great tool. Just because you didn't sell a home through social media doesn't mean that you can't tell the seller that you're marketing their property through those different platforms. And let the seller know about your database. I mean, probably one of the biggest assets that a real estate agent has, your CRM, and how you're going to email everybody or contact them about that seller's particular property. Do you do drops? Now that might sound old school, but Jordan does those, and he shows them how his drop is better than all the others that are out there. In fact, he's got 3 different versions of drops depending on the price range of the property he's dealing with. And what about print? Yes, I said it, print. He'll often do a full page spread of a seller's property. Not 6 on a page, not 12 on a page, not 20 on a page where it just gets lost in the wash. A big investment in the marketing of this property to take a full page spread, knowing that he may not sell the property off that listing, but he's almost certainly going to attract people that want to list with him because of that particular ad. Now, often he doesn't even have to do it, but he has to be prepared to invest. He has to be prepared to stick to what he says in his listing presentation about the professional photographs, the social media, potentially putting it in print, potentially taking a full page spread, and he has to stick by his word and do it. But here's the thing. If he's got his listing presentation waxed, and he does, and he's confident, and he pitches that up front properly, well, 50% of the time, when it's priced right, which is what you get when you're confident about your presentation, 50% of that time, the property will sell before you have to spend the big money on it. Yes, there's the rare times that it does drag on a bit longer, and then you have to stick to your word, and you have to make sure that you invest what you said you would. But listen to what I said. If you do your presentation properly up front, you get to determine the price because you're the expert in this transaction, which means you wouldn't necessarily have to lay out a fortune on that particular property because it'll get sold quicker. Price counseling is obviously key. Starting the sentence with, the market is telling us. Not Jordan is telling you that your property is not worth this. The market is telling us. That's why statistics and trends are important, and knowing how many people are visiting a site or visiting a property, how many views there are crucial to be feeding that back to the seller on an ongoing basis. So price counseling, price counseling, price counseling. And just like buying a home, when do you make money on home investment? You make money when you buy it. If you buy at a good price, well, you'll see a return. So that's where it's at. And it's similar with listings. When you list at the right price, well, you shorten the curve of the selling process. And what if a seller wants to work with another agent? Jill. Well, tell them not to just give it to Jill. Tell them to interview with you as well. Now, if you believe that you can add more value and you can potentially do a better job and get them more money, you should insist on at least getting the interview and getting in front of the client. But what if the seller wildly overprices their property? Well, you need to be prepared to walk away. Mr. Seller, I appreciate you offering me the listing and I wish that you sell it, but as an investor in this process, I need to be 100% confident in my investment because I only get paid once the property is sold. You need to be confident in your ability. Everyone can sell a home, but you can do it better. And you need to believe in that because your belief in that will show through when you're doing the listing presentation. A good agent makes calls. Jordan farms his area. He knows the stock. He's the market expert. He geo-farms a couple of thousand at a time. And this is a person that's number one. Number one, not just in his suburb, in his region, in his state, in his country. He's number one worldwide. And he interviews for listings every single day. Listings, and specifically exclusive listings, are the lifeblood of any real estate agent. He believes it's important to offer the same service and enthusiasm for every property and every seller he deals with. He also believes that you shouldn't be spending money on anything that doesn't lead to more business. And some of us can waste a lot of money in this industry. So let me repeat that. Don't spend money on anything that doesn't lead to more business. Sometimes, and more often than not, you'll be up against an agent on the same listing. But if you really want the listing, go bigger and win. And the more you do that, the more you start building your market share, the more you start attracting people to the services that you have to offer. And remember, the better your listing presentation, the more you will push for listings. Not just the PowerPoint presentation, not the booklet, not just the services that you have to offer, but all of that combined and wrapped up into how you deliver it, how you get it across, how you show your confidence sitting in front of Mr. or Mrs. Seller. And you do that more and more, you'll start attracting people that want to work with you and want you to sell their properties. And you do that consistently over a period of time. Well, that's when you start selling $200 million worth of real estate. I hope you enjoyed today's session. I certainly learned a lot from Jordan Cohen, and I hope that some of this will resonate with you and you can implement in your business. I'll catch you next time on Millionaire Mondays.